What's up everyone out there in YouTube land? It's me, Perry Lovewhistle, and I'm back on Acadian in Project Quarm. And, as you can see, I am back at the Dreadlands Combine Outpost, because I just discovered these guys, the Plaguebone Thieves. And even though they probably only a third of them con blue to me still, I can still get about a gold bubble of experience per hour farming these guys. And I discovered this at level 51, and as you can see, I am level 53 now. I'm actually a good chunk into level 53, and I'll be able to pretty easily push to level 54, even if I decide to stay here, which I really shouldn't do. I should go to the Burning Woods, but the EXP here is so safe and easy that it's really hard to ignore. Not only are these guys good for experience, but they also drop one of the medallion pieces. Traditionally, they're not supposed to. That piece is supposed to drop off of a specific rotting skeleton in a different part of the Dreadlands, but this is another part of the fact that Secrets has made this quest easier. As a matter of fact, I've actually been able to get all 6 of the remaining pieces, which is really good in terms of the video, because that means that I don't have to get guild help and then have them wait while I explain things. I will talk about each of these things, and I got the actual acquisition of the medallion pieces on video, but I need to head to the Burning Woods to turn in 3 of them to a skeleton Ixar. And even though I already have all 6 pieces, it's still gonna probably take me about an hour at the minimum to do these last 3 turn-ins, just because of how big Kunark zones are. But I'm gonna use that to my advantage, because the next place I'm headed is the middle of the Burning Woods to do the next turn-in. And even though I usually spend a lot of time talking through all of the dialogue that different mobs give for these quests, I do not feel safe in the Burning Woods doing that. So I'm going to talk through as much of it as I can during the long fly over there, so that all I have to do is make sure that he cons indifferent, do my test hail to make sure that he'll talk to me, and then turn in the medallion pieces. The guy who I'm going to be looking for the Medallion of the Obulus is Slex, who is a skeleton Ixar in the middle of the Burning Woods. I would probably be initially prompted to hail him if I was doing a lot of leveling in the Burning Woods and noticed a skeleton that conned indifferent. There are lots of skeletons in the Burning Woods that are kill on sight. That's actually, like I said earlier, it's where I should be leveling right now, but I'm a little scared of zones that are actually appropriate level for me. And if you hail him, he talks about his fallen tribe of the Obulus. So that would clue me in that he's probably the person that I need to be looking for. He even talks about a medallion, the Medallion of the Obulus. And then he says it's broken into pieces, just like the Jarzath medallion. He says one of them is being held by Selot, one of them is held by an Ixar ghost in Trakanons, and the last one by a long rotted Ixar skeleton in the Dreadlands. The first one is held by Selot Dnas, who is a Ixar on Kabilis faction up by the shore at the north end of Warslick's Woods. If you are an Ixar, or you've spent a lot of time killing Sarnax, he could be indifferent or even friendly to you. If you're not an Ixar and haven't done a bunch of faction grinding, he's kill on sight. But luckily he is rooted in place, so all you have to do is have someone charm him, and then he'll talk to you. And when he does so, he tells you that he is looking for a burnished wooden stave, which is something that drops, actually even traditionally, off of a bunch of random mobs in Chardok. Luckily for me, it's also droppable. So people sell them, and I managed to buy one for 700 platinum in the EC tunnel. So you give him that staff, and he gives you the piece of the Amulet of Obulus. And he makes some comment about how he doesn't know what it's for, which is just what Slixin said. The second piece is off of the Slixin says an Ixar ghost in Trakanon. Again, this is one of the ones that was supposed to drop off of one specific Ixar ghost, I think a pained soul. For me, it dropped off of the ghost that followed me in when I was making the beginning of the last video. that one's already grabbed. And the rotting skeleton was the one I talked about at the beginning of this video, which is supposed to drop off of a rotting skeleton at the east end of Dreadlands, instead drops off of most of the undead in Dreadlands. According to the Project 1999 map, I should be able to head straight north from the Zone Inn to find Slixin Klex. Should be at a little bit of a clearing, and this is, by the way, the first time in my entire EverQuest career that I have been in the Burning Woods, not hugging the walls, without either a group or a raid with me. So, like I said earlier, even though I have all of the pieces, this is still very nerve-wracking and probably still very time-consuming. It is odd that I have not run into anything on my walk north here. Okay, trees cleared away. That's nice. Okay, there's the big glowing meteor. He's supposed to be around here. Here's all the hornets that I should be quad kiting. And there is Slixin Klex right there. Staring at this thing. Wait until that hornet runs away. And give him... Oh, I've already organized the pieces using Identify. So he needs the obulus pieces, which I've got here in the bottom half. And there I get my Medallion of the Obulus. Re-invis myself and head back south. The last amulet is given by Professor Akabau, who is in a much safer location in the Lake of Ill-Omen. But it is a couple of minutes away, so I'm going to run there and then actually talk to that NPC and do that part of the quest a little bit more Perry Lovewhistle style. And here in the southeast corner of Lake of Ill-Omen, you can see a windmill. And this is a very different windmill from the ones that are in the Steamfont Mountains. I can't tell if it's supposed to be insinuated that this windmill is built out of the ruins, some Ixar or Sarnak ruins, or if it itself is a relic of the Ixar Empire. But inside of it is a familiar face. Actually, a couple. Nubs Black Granite over here is a vendor. I think he's a greedy vendor on Project 1999, but I don't think Project Quarm has greedy vendors. So a lot of people who hunt in Lake of Ill-Omen can sell to him, turn all of their loot into plat. But here in the middle is Professor Akabau. You hail him and he says, "Have you come to learn of the ancient tribes of the Ixar?" You get him to talk about it and he starts talking about how he is learning of the extinct kylong. Apparently the Kunzar actually annihilated the kylong, as well as the other two tribes that you're finding medallions for. So that's kind of interesting, because the Kunzar is... You find that name in a couple of other high-end pieces of equipment you get out of raids and stuff like that. He talks about the Medallion of the Kylong and how it was broken in order to prevent the Kunzar from reassembling the medallion. You ask him more specifically about the medallion, and he says, the shaman who took the pieces sought shelters to hide and continue the practices in order to one day return their tribe to its former glory. Their remains may exist beneath some of the fortresses that are centers of Ixar and Sarnak necromancy. I have indications that some of the tomes within those fortresses are in fact very tomes once cherished by the Kylong. He kind of just generally hints that the pieces are in dungeons. You sort of expect that at this point in the quest. You're hunting through a lot of dungeons. You should be going all over Kunark to finish this quest. So one of them is in Chardok, and it's being held by a rat man named Niblek. Now, what a lot of people on this server do, and maybe on Project 1999 also, and I just wasn't active raiding at the time, is they will work up their faction with Chardock so that they can run around Chardock the entire dungeon freely. I haven't done that. I've barely had time to level, much less work on faction. So I had to have somebody drag Niblek up to the top of Chardock for me, and he wants 2 gems, a black sapphire and a ruby. You can buy the ruby from any jewelcraft merchant, and the black sapphire drops pretty regularly on raids. So I was able to buy one from the guild bank to turn into him. And that gives you one of the pieces. Another one was actually one of the earliest pieces that I got that's supposed to drop off of Varix Kylox's remains in the sewers of Karnor's castle. That one's changed, so it drops off of pretty much any unique mob in Karnor's castle. So I already had that one. And the last one was from Dreaded K. Sora, and I was going to try and do this one on my own, and I am so glad that I didn't. It is in the east half of K. Sora, which is almost immediately just hallways full of undead. I never would have gotten all the way through it if I didn't have a guildie who was a cleric, who was able to pacify the spiders at the front and then cast Invis vs. Undead so that we could run all the way back to the library. And actually, before I even got there, I managed to aggro one mob who can even see through Invis vs. Undead, but I was able to gate out before he got through my harm shield. Giving me my last 3 pieces. And now I've got my Medallion of the Kylong, along with my Medallion of the Jarsath, and the Obulus, and my Trakanon's Tooth. Which means now it's time to head back to Trakanon's Teeth, and have one last conversation with Emperor Ganak. And I am once again in Emperor Ganak's lair. And just like last time, this spectral keeper followed me in. I was prepared for him this time. And of course, he still dropped the piece of a medallion. But luckily, this will be the last time that I have to deal with that. Here's good old Emperor Ganak. So at this point, I have given him the medallions from all 5 of the original Ixar tribes, as well as the tooth of the dragon that destroyed his home in Sibyllus. And he says, I thought your flesh would be rotting from your bones alongside the remains of the ancient Sibyllissians. A place shall be prepared for your souls among the most honored of the dead. Soon you will be seeing the world through the shroud of death. So he doesn't have a lot of faith in me surviving Veeshan's Peak. And honestly, at level 53, I don't either. I was able to complete this quest in maybe 3 hours of true game time, as a wizard with a very supportive guild. If it wasn't for the changes that Secrets made to the Project Quarm server, it would have been impossible for me at level 53. If it wasn't for my guild, it would have taken me a lot longer than about 3 hours. But it doesn't do me a whole lot of good at level 53. So I'm going to get back to those Plaguebone Thieves and see if I can get to a level where I can actually be useful in Veeshan's Peak. So until next time, bye!